Why praying the Rosary daily changes your life forever. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine holding the beads of the Rosary between your fingers. The weight is simple, yet it carries centuries of prayer, centuries of whispered hope. Each bead is like a doorway into peace, each prayer like a breath that draws you closer to God. In a world that races forward, demanding more and more of you, the Rosary is an invitation to slow down, to be still, and to discover a rhythm of grace that the noise of life cannot disturb. The Rosary is not a lifeless repetition. It is a gentle current that carries your soul into silence, where God speaks in whispers. Every Hail Mary is like a heartbeat, steady, calming, uniting you with countless voices across generations who prayed the same words. When you pray slowly, attentively, letting each phrase rest in your heart, you begin to notice something. Peace is not far away. It begins to rise within you, filling spaces once crowded by worry. But there is more. The Rosary is a meditation, a journey through the mysteries of Christ. As your lips whisper prayers, your mind walks with Him. You stand in Nazareth as Mary says yes to God. You kneel in Gethsemane as Jesus surrenders to the Father's will. You rejoice at the empty tomb as the stone rolls away. And in each mystery, your own life is mirrored. Your joys, your sorrows, your hopes, your struggles, all are drawn into His story, transformed by His presence. When you make the Rosary a daily habit, it becomes more than a prayer. It becomes an anchor. The repetition trains your heart to return to God even in the middle of noise. The beads become familiar, like a friend's hand guiding you back when you wander, and slowly, without realizing, you are changed. Your mind grows quieter, your spirit grows stronger, your heart grows softer. The Rosary becomes the sound of your soul learning to rest in God. This is why praying the Rosary daily changes your life forever. Not because of magic, not because of empty words, but because prayer shapes the one who prays. Every whisper plants peace. Every bead teaches trust. Every mystery draws you deeper into the heart of Christ. And as you repeat this rhythm day after day, you discover that the Rosary is not just a prayer you say. It is a path you walk, a path that leads you into peace, into strength, and into God Himself. The Rosary as a daily anchor. Life has a way of pulling you in 1,000 directions at once. Before the day even begins, thoughts rush in, responsibilities, worries, deadlines, desires. It is as if the soul is tossed into a restless sea, searching for something steady to hold on to. The Rosary becomes that anchor, a daily rhythm that grounds you, not in yourself, not in the shifting demands of the world, but in God's presence. Picture this moment. Beads slipping slowly through your fingers, each one marking time in a different way. The world counts minutes with clocks, but the Rosary counts them with prayer. And as you move bead by bead, something begins to shift. The chaos outside may continue, but inside there is order. There is a rhythm. There is calm. An anchor does not remove the waves. It steadies the vessel. The Rosary does the same for the soul. It does not erase your struggles, but it steadies you through them. It reminds you that you are not drifting without direction. You are tethered to something eternal. Each repetition of the Hail Mary is like a gentle pull back toward God. keeping your heart from being swept away by distractions. When you pray the Rosary daily, it shapes your routine into something sacred. The ordinary becomes holy. A quiet moment in the morning, a pause during the afternoon, or a reflection at night, all can become spaces where heaven touches earth through simple prayer. And slowly, you begin to notice the day feels different when it begins anchored in prayer. Challenges do not shake you as easily. Temptations lose some of their power. Peace lingers longer than you expected. This is the mystery of repetition. To the world, repetition looks meaningless, but to the soul, it becomes formation. Just as waves shape the shore not in a single crash, but in steady rhythm, so too the Rosary shapes your heart bead by bead. Over time, it wears away fear, softens anxiety, and carves into you a deeper trust in God. The Rosary also teaches presence. In a distracted age where the mind constantly runs ahead, the steady pace of prayer slows you down. It says, breathe, listen, return. The anchor is not only about stability, but about presence, reminding you that God is here now in this very prayer. And once you sense that, the rest of the day carries a new depth. An anchored soul is not a rigid soul. Anchoring does not mean resisting life or hiding from it. It means being steady enough to move through it without losing yourself. The Rosary trains this steadiness. It allows you to face each day not with panic, but with peace. Not with fear, but with quiet strength. So when you hold the Rosary daily, remember what you are doing. You are not merely repeating words. You are securing your heart to something eternal. You are grounding your soul in the presence of God. And no matter how restless the sea of life becomes, you will not be lost. For you are anchored, steady, and held fast by the gentle chain of prayer that leads you back to Him. Peace in the rhythm of prayer. Peace is not always found in the absence of noise, but in the discovery of rhythm. The Rosary carries this rhythm within it, a flow that steadies the mind and quiets the heart. Each bead, each whispered prayer, becomes like the steady beat of a drum guiding your soul into calm. It is not rushed. It is not chaotic. It is slow, deliberate, and gentle. And in that gentleness, peace begins to rise. Imagine the way waves touch the shore, one after another, never hurried, never forced. That is the rhythm of the Rosary. Each Hail Mary comes like a wave, soft, repeating, familiar. The world may storm outside, but within the steady rhythm of prayer, you are carried into a deeper stillness. It is this very repetition that many dismiss as empty, yet in truth, it is sacred. Because the heart craves rhythm, the soul longs for something consistent to rest upon. And the Rosary offers exactly that. When you pray it daily, the Rosary rewires your inner dialogue. Instead of restless thoughts spiraling out of control, your mind learns to follow the cadence of prayer. Each phrase becomes a pattern your spirit recognizes. Hail Mary, full of grace, Holy Mary, Mother of God. Familiar words, whispered softly, until they settle deep inside. Over time, the rhythm does not just shape your prayer, it shapes you. Anxiety loses its sharp edge, stress loosens its grip, and peace becomes your natural state. There is also a physical peace that flows from this rhythm. Breathing slows, shoulders relax, the heart steadies. Science itself confirms what the soul already knows. Rhythm calms the body, but the Rosary goes further. It is not just rhythm for rhythm's sake. It is rhythm connected to God. Every word points upward. Every breath becomes prayer. Every repetition draws you deeper into His presence. The peace you feel is not only psychological, it is spiritual. It is the peace of knowing that in this moment, you are held. Think of how the world trains you. It teaches hurry, urgency, constant motion. But the Rosary teaches slowness, attention, surrender. And in this surrender, you find freedom. Freedom from the pressure to solve everything at once. Freedom from the thoughts that chase each other endlessly. Freedom from the fear that fills the silence. The rhythm of prayer is like a melody playing beneath the noise, reminding you that you are safe, that you are loved, that you are not alone. When you enter this rhythm daily, it begins to spill into the rest of your life. The peace of prayer does not end when the beads are put away. It lingers. Conversations feel lighter, tasks less overwhelming. Even the way you respond to interruptions changes. Because the rhythm is still within you, your heart continues to beat to the cadence of trust. Your soul continues to whisper the words even when your lips are silent. This is why the Rosary is not just a set of prayers, but a way of breathing, a way of living. It teaches you to walk in peace when the world demands panic. It shapes you into someone who carries calm into every situation. And that peace, born in rhythm, becomes one of the greatest gifts the Rosary can give. So as you move through the beads, do not rush. Let the rhythm guide you. Let the repetition carry you. Let the familiar words settle over your soul like waves on the shore. In this rhythm lies peace. In this rhythm lies rest. In this rhythm you will find yourself held by God in ways deeper than you ever imagined. Meditation on the mysteries of Christ. The Rosary is more than words repeated. It is a doorway into meditation, into mysteries that shape not only the way you pray, but the way you live. Every decade of the Rosary holds a story, a moment in the life of Christ that reflects back into your own. When you whisper the prayers, bead by bead, you are not only repeating, you are remembering. You are entering into the mysteries of faith and letting them transform you. The joyful mysteries draw you into the beginning of hope. You stand in Nazareth as Mary receives the angel's message, and you remember what it means to say yes to God, even when the future is uncertain. You walk with her to Elizabeth's home, and you learn the power of carrying joy to others. You kneel at the manger, and you see that greatness is born in humility. Each mystery whispers truth into your soul. Joy is not found in possessions or success, but in surrender to God's plan. The sorrowful mysteries invite you into the depth of suffering. You feel the weight of the cross on Christ's shoulders, and you recognize the crosses in your own life. You hear his prayers in Gethsemane, and you remember that even in fear, surrender brings strength. You see him struck, mocked, crucified, and yet through it all you realize that love endures. These mysteries are heavy, but they carry light within them, the light of redemption, the reminder that no suffering is wasted when united with Christ. The glorious mysteries lift your heart into victory. You stand at the empty tomb, and you remember that death is not the end. You watch as Christ ascends, promising a place prepared for you. You hear the rush of the Spirit at Pentecost, and you realize that the same Spirit fills you with courage even now. These mysteries declare that hope is stronger than despair, that eternity is stronger than time, that heaven is your final home. The luminous mysteries guide you through the light of Christ's ministry. You watch his baptism in the Jordan, and you remember your own calling to live as a child of God. You hear his teaching, his miracles, his invitation to the table, and you see that your life is not ordinary, but filled with moments where heaven touches earth. These mysteries remind you that following him is not abstract. It is concrete. It is daily. It is here and now. When you pray the Rosary with attention to these mysteries, you are not escaping life. You are learning how to live it. You see your own joys mirrored in Mary's song of praise, your own sorrows mirrored in Christ's suffering, your own victories mirrored in his resurrection. The Rosary becomes a lens through which you view everything, not as random events, but as part of a larger story, the story of salvation that you are a part of. Daily meditation on these mysteries shapes your heart. It softens anger, strengthens patience, deepens compassion. It reminds you that you are never alone in what you face, because Christ has already walked the path ahead of you. And with every decade, with every whispered word, you are not just reciting, you are remembering. Not just remembering, but becoming. The mysteries of Christ become the mystery of your own life, and through them, you are changed. So when you hold the Rosary tomorrow, do not rush. Enter the mysteries. See them not as distant events, but as living truths. Walk with Mary, walk with Christ, walk with the Spirit. Let the mysteries speak into your silence, shape your choices, heal your wounds. Because the Rosary is not about losing yourself in repetition. It is about finding yourself in the mystery of God, a spiritual conversation with Mary. The Rosary is not only a prayer to God, it is also a conversation with Mary, the mother of Jesus. Each Hail Mary is like a whisper to her heart, a gentle acknowledgement of her role in salvation and her presence in your life. To some, it may feel repetitive, but when you pause and think of it as a dialogue, it changes everything. Each repetition becomes a moment of closeness, a way of inviting her into your day, your struggles, your joys. Mary is not distant. She is not a symbol locked in stained glass. She is a mother. She listens with tenderness, and she points you to Christ. The Rosary trains your soul to see her not as an obstacle, but as a guide. With every Hail Mary, you are saying, "Walk with me. Teach me how to see Jesus as you saw him. Teach me how to love him as you loved him." This is the hidden depth of the Rosary. It is not about empty repetition. It is about learning to live with Mary at your side. In the mysteries, she is always present. In the joyful mysteries, you walk with her as she carries Christ within her, as she sings her Magnificat, as she presents him to the world. In the sorrowful mysteries, you stand beside her at the cross, learning strength in the face of pain. In the glorious mysteries, you share her joy as she is assumed into heaven and crowned as queen. In every mystery, she teaches you something about faith, about courage, about surrender. This conversation is quiet, but it shapes you. Whispering. Hail Mary after Hail Mary may seem small, but it is like drops of water shaping stone. Over time, your heart begins to reflect hers, humble, trusting, receptive. And in becoming more like Mary, you are drawn closer to Christ. Because she never keeps you for herself. She always leads you to Him. That is why the Rosary is powerful. It is not only speaking to Mary, it is letting her form you in the way she formed her son. Think of how a child learns from a parent, not only by listening to words, but by watching, imitating, absorbing the spirit of the home. Praying the Rosary daily is like living in Mary's home. You listen to her words of faith. You imitate her trust. You absorb her calm presence, and soon, without even realizing it, you begin to live differently. Worries lose their sharp edge because you are learning to trust. Temptations lose their pull because you are learning to surrender. Life feels lighter because you are not carrying it alone. When you call upon Mary in the Rosary, you are not separating yourself from Christ. You are drawing closer to Him through the one who knew Him best. She whispers to you, as she once whispered at Cana, "Do whatever He tells you." The Rosary becomes the space where you hear that guidance over and over again, until it becomes second nature. So as you hold the beads in your hand, imagine it as holding her hand. Every Hail Mary is another step by her side. Every decade is another lesson in trust. Every mystery is another page in the story she shares with you. This is not repetition, it is relationship. A conversation that deepens each day, a companionship that grows stronger the more you pray. And when life feels overwhelming, when the world distracts you, when fear clouds your thoughts, return to that whisper. Hail Mary. Whisper it again and again. Let the conversation continue. Because Mary listens. She carries your prayers to Christ, and she never leaves your side. Strengthen daily battles. Life is filled with battles. Some are visible, like conflicts at work, financial pressures, or health struggles. Others are hidden, fought in silence within the heart. Anxiety, temptation, doubt, fear. Each day brings challenges, and no one is exempt. The question is not whether you will face battles, but how you will face them. This is where the Rosary becomes more than prayer. It becomes armor. Each bead you hold is like a shield, each prayer like a weapon. Not weapons of violence, but weapons of peace, weapons of trust, weapons of faith. The Rosary trains you to fight not with panic, but with patience, not with despair, but with hope. When temptations rise, when fear presses in, the steady rhythm of prayer lifts you above them. You whisper the words, and they become like arrows of light in the darkness. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Rosary is a daily reminder that you are not fighting alone. Mary stands beside you, guiding you as she guided the early disciples, strengthening you as she stood at the foot of the cross. Christ Himself walks with you, His victory already secured. When you pray the Rosary, you step into that victory. You clothe yourself in grace. You surround yourself with the memory of His triumph over sin and death. And that memory gives you courage to face your own struggles with new strength. Consider the sorrowful mysteries. They are not abstract. They are battle scenes. Christ in Gethsemane battling fear. Christ scourged and crowned with thorns battling humiliation. Christ carrying the cross battling exhaustion. Christ crucified battling the weight of the world's sin. Yet in each battle, love prevails. By meditating on these mysteries, You learn how to endure your own battles. You discover that suffering does not mean defeat, that weakness can become strength when surrendered to God. The Rosary also protects you in subtler ways. Daily prayer builds resistance against the small distractions that erode your spirit. The worries that normally consume you lose their sharpness. Temptations that once overpowered you weaken in their pull. Because when you are rooted in prayer, your soul becomes less vulnerable. The enemy may whisper lies, but your heart has already been trained to listen to a different voice, the steady whisper of God's peace. Strength is not only the power to overcome, but the patience to endure. The Rosary teaches both. It reminds you to keep moving bead by bead, prayer by prayer, step by step. Even when the battle feels long, you learn not to give up. Each prayer becomes an act of perseverance, a declaration that you will not surrender to fear. And over time, those small declarations build into unshakable resilience. This strength is not loud. It is not always noticed by others. It is quiet, hidden, steady. But it changes the way you live. You begin to face difficulties with a calm that surprises even you. You respond to conflicts with gentleness when anger would have once ruled. You find hope in places where before there was only despair. This is the fruit of the Rosary, the transformation of your battles into victories, not because the battles vanish, but because you no longer face them alone. So when the day feels heavy, when struggles rise like waves, pick up the Rosary. Whisper its words slowly. Let each bead remind you that you are not unarmed, not unprotected, not abandoned. You are strengthened by prayer, anchored in grace, carried by the presence of Christ and His Mother. And with that strength, no battle is too great, no burden too heavy, no fear too dark. Because the Rosary is your daily weapon, and through it, God fights with you. Transformation of heart and mind. The Rosary is not only a prayer you say, it is a prayer that slowly reshapes you. Day after day, bead after bead, it works quietly in the background of your life, softening what is hard, strengthening what is weak, opening what is closed. It transforms not only the way you pray, but the way you think, the way you feel, the way you see the world. This transformation is subtle, almost invisible at first, but over time it becomes undeniable. Every Hail Mary is a seed, and like all seeds, it does not reveal its fruit immediately, but with repetition, with patience, with daily faithfulness, those seeds begin to grow. They grow into patience when you once had only irritation. They grow into compassion where you once felt indifference. They grow into trust where fear once ruled. The Rosary teaches your heart new habits, new instincts, new reflexes. It teaches you to choose peace instead of panic, surrender instead of control, faith instead of fear. The mysteries of Christ, repeated daily, rewire the mind. They shift your inner patterns away from negativity and toward hope. When you meditate on the joyful mysteries, gratitude becomes natural. When you meditate on the sorrowful mysteries, endurance grows stronger. When you meditate on the glorious mysteries, hope takes root deeper than despair. The Rosary becomes not just a prayer, but a form of training for the soul, forming your thoughts according to the gospel. Transformation of the heart is not only about emotions, but about perspective. Through the Rosary, you begin to see yourself differently. You see your weaknesses not as shame, but as places where God's strength can shine. You see others not as enemies or obstacles, but as fellow travelers, also in need of grace. You see the world not as a place of chaos, but as a stage where God's plan continues to unfold. This shift in vision is the true miracle of the Rosary. It changes not the world around you, but the way you see it. Mary plays a role in this transformation too. Each Hail Mary is a quiet lesson in humility, in trust, in openness. She teaches you not only with words, but with her presence. Her life, reflected in the mysteries, becomes a model that slowly imprints itself on your own. And without realizing it, you begin to live differently. You begin to say yes more readily to God's will. You begin to carry peace into situations that once filled you with anger. You begin to approach others with patience and kindness. This change is not dramatic, not sudden. It is not the fire of an instant conversion, but the steady glow of a lifelong transformation. Like water shaping stone, the Rosary shapes you gently, persistently, until your heart is softer, your mind clearer, your spirit freer. The people around you may notice it before you do. They may see that you are calmer, more grounded, more hopeful. And when they ask why, you may realize that the daily rhythm of prayer has changed you more than you imagined. This is why praying the Rosary daily changes your life forever. It does not only connect you to God in prayer, it shapes you into someone who reflects Him. It forms your mind to think with His wisdom, your heart to beat with His love, your spirit to rest in His peace. And in that transformation, your life becomes not just different, but new, living with eternal perspective. The Rosary does not only root you in the present moment, it lifts your gaze beyond it. Each bead, each prayer, each mystery draws your heart toward eternity. In a world that lives in constant rush, measuring life by deadlines, numbers, and passing achievements, the Rosary slows you down and reminds you of something greater. It whispers that this life is not the final destination. It is a journey, a preparation, a brief chapter in a story that will never end. When you pray the Rosary daily, you are not only repeating words, you are aligning your soul with eternity. The joyful mysteries remind you that God enters into ordinary life, that heaven touches earth in hidden ways. The sorrowful mysteries remind you that suffering is not meaningless, that pain can be redeemed. The glorious mysteries remind you that death is not the end, that victory belongs to God. And the luminous mysteries remind you that the light of Christ continues to shine even now, guiding your steps. Together, they form a perspective that is eternal, not temporary. Living with an eternal perspective changes the way you face daily struggles. Worries that once felt overwhelming lose their weight when you see them in the light of eternity. Failures that once crushed you lose their power when you remember they are not the end of your story. Even success takes on new meaning because you understand it is not measured by wealth or recognition, but by faithfulness to God's call. The Rosary teaches you to measure your life not by the clock, but by the kingdom. This perspective brings freedom. You no longer cling desperately to what is passing, because you know something greater awaits. You no longer fear loss as you once did, because you know nothing surrendered to God is ever truly lost. You no longer live chained to the present moment, because you know eternity stretches beyond it. And with this freedom comes peace, a peace that the world cannot give. Mary herself lived with this eternal vision. She treasured each moment on earth, but her heart was always fixed on God. She knew that her yes to the angel was more than an earthly choice. It was an eternal decision. At the cross, she knew that her sorrow was not the end. It was the doorway to resurrection. Praying the Rosary daily draws you into that same vision. It trains you to see as Mary saw, to hope as she hoped, to trust as she trusted. This eternal perspective also transforms the way you treat others. You begin to see them not only as they are now, but as souls created for eternity. This changes the way you speak, the way you forgive, the way you love. Because when you see eternity in someone else, you realize they are worth more than arguments, more than grudges, more than pride. They are priceless in God's eyes, and your actions can either draw them closer to Him or push them away. The Rosary helps you choose the path of love. Living with eternal perspective does not mean ignoring the present moment. It means living it fully, but without fear, without despair, without clinging to what cannot last. It means walking through this world with peace, because you know your true home is beyond it, and every time you pick up the Rosary, you are reminded of that truth. You are reminded that eternity is not far. It is already beginning in your heart, bead by bead, prayer by prayer. So as you move through the mysteries, let them lift your gaze. Let them remind you that every joy and every sorrow is part of something larger, something eternal. Let them free you from the weight of the temporary, so you can walk lighter, live freer, love deeper. This is the gift of the Rosary. It does not only change your day, it changes your destiny. The Rosary as a lifelong journey. The Rosary is not a prayer you finish. It is not a task to check off or a duty to complete. It is a journey, one that stretches across days, across years, across the entire span of your life. To pray the Rosary daily is to step into a rhythm that will walk with you through every season, every change, every stage of your story. It becomes not just something you do, but something you live. In the beginning, the Rosary may feel like discipline, a practice that requires effort, that asks you to slow down when everything else demands speed. But with time, discipline becomes delight. What once felt like repetition begins to feel like companionship. The beads become familiar, like the hand of a friend always ready to guide you. The words no longer feel forced, but natural, as if your heart has learned a new language, the language of prayer. As you walk through life, the Rosary walks with you. In seasons of joy, it gives you a way to lift your gratitude higher. In seasons of sorrow, it gives you words when you have none of your own. In seasons of confusion, it gives you clarity by grounding you in the mysteries of Christ. And in seasons of silence, it simply gives you presence, the steady reminder that God and His Mother are with you, even when you cannot feel them. The Rosary adapts to your life because its mysteries reflect every human experience. The joyful mysteries echo the happiness of new beginnings. The sorrowful mysteries echo the pain of loss and struggle. The glorious mysteries echo the hope that rises after despair. And the luminous mysteries echo the light that shines in the middle of ordinary days. Whatever you live, you find it mirrored in prayer. And through that mirror, your experiences are not just endured, they are transformed. Over time, the Rosary shapes not only your days, but your identity. You become someone who carries prayer within you, someone who sees life through the lens of faith. The daily rhythm forms grooves in your soul, grooves that even suffering cannot erase. They remain deep and steady, leading you back to God no matter where life takes you. This is why the Rosary is a lifelong journey. It is not about rushing to the end, but about walking steadily, bead by bead, breath by breath. Each prayer is a step, each decade a milestone, each mystery a chapter. And together, they tell the story of a soul that never walked alone. When you reach the end of your life, the Rosary will not be a string of forgotten words. It will be a friend that carried you, a rhythm that sustained you, a chain that linked you to heaven. The daily prayers you whispered will have shaped your heart into something new, calmer, stronger, more faithful, more free. And when the final mystery is prayed, you will discover that the journey was never about beads at all, but about love. Love repeated, love remembered, love lived. So do not treat the Rosary as something small. Treat it as a path, a lifelong journey that changes not only how you live, but how you die, and beyond that, how you live forever. Because bead by bead, prayer by prayer, it is shaping eternity within you. Why praying the Rosary daily changes your life forever. The Rosary is more than a prayer you whisper. It is a path you walk, a rhythm that carries you, a companion that never leaves your side. Day after day, bead after bead, it teaches you peace, it gives you strength, it opens your heart to mysteries far greater than yourself. And if you stay faithful to this simple devotion, you will see your life will not remain the same. Peace will become your anchor, even in storms. Strength will rise within you, even in weakness. Joy will return, even in sorrow. And hope will never leave, because the Rosary is not only about words, it is about presence. The presence of Mary, the presence of Christ, the presence of God woven into the fabric of your everyday. So as you close your eyes now, let this blessing rest over you. May every bead remind you that you are never alone. May every prayer draw you deeper into God's heart. May every mystery shape your story into one of trust, of surrender, of love. And may the Rosary become not just a prayer for today, but a journey for your lifetime, a chain that links you to heaven forever. Begin with one prayer. Begin with one decade. Begin with one moment of silence. And let the Rosary carry you, change you, transform you. For in this simple devotion lies a truth eternal. Praying the Rosary daily will change your life forever.